All right. Happy World Renowned Wednesday, everyone. It is time for us to get rolling, for us to improve our lives, our businesses, and move towards being world renowned, to join the ranks of the elite few and separate ourselves from the mediocre many. Now, here's the first thing that we are going to do. We're going to do a quick recap. Don't forget, you have access to the videos. I will be sending out the video for last week and this week as soon as it is processed tonight, and I'll get that up for you. But here's what I want to remind you all of, because we're going to look at how to continue to be world renowned, how to build our businesses, how to make more money easier, and to solidify ourselves as the go-to experts. But here's where I want to recap with. Hopefully, you all have had a chance to go back and watch the video, that you've done your homework, that we focused on those 3 C's of connection, character, and competence. Those are going to play a big piece in what we're going to talk about today when we get into this whole idea of building our personal brand. And then I had this T to A, these thoughts to actions. And that was primarily your homework for week number 1. What thoughts did you turn into action? What are those things, those levers that if you know you pull them would probably result in the greatest result or greatest impact on your business? Maybe it's just sticking to your schedule or blocking out time for whatever business or dollar producing activities or income producing activities that you said you were going to do. Maybe it was cleaning off your desk or making those phone calls that you said you would. So we want to make sure that we turn those thoughts into actions. For me, my T to A was actually announcing that I've written a book, that we're going through some edits right now. So that's why I had to say, well, am I going to just keep having this in my mind, sharing it, waiting until it's totally finished or not? And so I had to get that thought and turn it into an action. And I've had great results on the other side of it. And then that 7-11-4, and we're not talking about some type of convenience store chain. When we say 7-11-4, we talk about as we build this thing to become individuals and entrepreneurs, and I'm going to say organizations that people seek, we must have 7-11-4, 7 hours of binge-worthy content with the creation of this thing right here called a smartphone. You now have in your pocket or in your purse a total video production suite. So I need you to get 7 hours of content. Maybe it's going to be blog content, and we're going to share some ways for you all to cut down on the creation piece, some ideas, tips, techniques that's going to make that easier. 7 hours of content. We need to shoot for 11 interactions with individuals. Once again, if you're on Facebook or IG and you saw me, and so here's what I want to do. I want you all to see exactly how this is playing out, right? Not that it's just me talking, but as I show you all examples of this, you all are going to go through a real life case study of how this is going to work. So one of my interactions was, hey, just letting people know that the book is coming out, The Affluent Negroes, 7 Principles for Minority Wealth Creation. Just the placeholder cover right now, the announcement. Then I asked them to what? Comment book in the section. So they started commenting book in the section. The next deal is going to be where I send them video. So I want you all to start seeing and counting the number of interactions that people are going to have with me on that stream or under that basket of Neil Oates and World Renowned. We're going to hit 11, 12, 13. Same thing with you. Do you have 11 touch points for your client or customer? If not, it's very unlikely that they'll be able to have 7 hours of content and relationship building. And what we're going to talk about tonight when it comes to building your personal brand, it's absolutely going to require 7 and 11. And then that 4, we need you to interact with your clients, customers, your prospects in 4 different places. It might be on social media platforms. Maybe it's going to be at a coffee shop or a face-to-face. It might be at a golf outing. like I did today. And I'll share a little bit with you more about that later. But here's what we're going to do. So right now, we're going to answer this question of what is your most valuable asset? And here's what I'm going to tell you. I know the answer. The most valuable asset is one thing and one thing only as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as an organization. Your most valuable asset is going to be your personal brand. Now, I know that we have business owners in here, so you might have a brokerage, you might have a company. I have world-renowned real estate, world-renowned coaching and consulting. We've got Black Affluence, all of those brands. However, here is the most valuable asset. It is your personal brand. And here's where I want to ask you as a business owner, entrepreneur, as a striver, as an individual who goes and gets and wants to take control. How much thought have you put into your personal brand? And here's where I must tell you that your personal brand and your professional brand, they are different, okay? People, we buy from people. People trust people. We don't trust brands. And here's what I mean. You're going to say, well, Neil, I only drink Coca-Cola. I don't drink Pepsi. It's probably because someone in your life introduced you to Coke, or they had a preference of Coke over Pepsi, and they said Coke is the number one choice. That's who we go with. Many of us right now use a specific type of dishwashing liquid or laundry detergent. Maybe we go to a certain store, not because of the brand, but because of the people that we trusted more than the brand. So as we talk about this personal brand, I want you all thinking, and just bear with me, that more important than any corporate brand, the personal brand is the most valuable asset that you own. And here's what that personal brand is. And when I say most valuable asset, here's what I mean. Your most valuable asset is the number of people who know you, like you, and trust you. I can tell how valuable you are. Now, we're talking about in the marketplace. We're not talking about as a husband, as a wife, as a brother, sister, human being. We're not talking that. We're talking economically. I can judge your value based on the number of people who know you, like you, and trust you. Okay. And so here's why that's so important. Many of us have people that know us, like us, and trust us, but do we have enough? Many of us right now are focusing on finding and building relationships with more customers or clients. We just need to find more people that know us, like us, and trust us. And if we do that, then you are going to build your value. And ultimately, the more value we have, the higher the prices we get to charge, the more income that we have. And so that's where, as we start building our personal brand, that's the purpose of tonight's call, for us to really look at how do we build our personal brand, even underneath a corporate brand or corporate umbrella. And this is what I want you to understand. A brand is not a logo. Now, many of you know I have the bow tie and beard logo, and they see that and they correlate Neil Oates with the bow tie and beard logo. The Neil Oates brand is not a bow tie and beard logo. The Neil Oates brand is not world-renowned coaching and consulting logo or the real estate logo. Neil Oates brand, and here's what your brand is. I know what each and every one of your brand is, and I'm going to tell you right now. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. What people say behind your back. That's what your brand is, like it or not. So remember, last week we asked you all to find out what people are saying about you. What is the one or two words that they will use to describe you, your brand, your company, your product or service? Well, right now, that's your brand. And here's what I want to ask you. When I tell you what your brand is, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room. Is that good or bad? Knowing that the identity of your brand is in someone else's hands, is that exciting or is it discouraging? is it sort of condemning for us? Like, oh, yeah. And so here's what I want to ask you all. How much is your brand worth? How much is your insert first name brand worth? And so here's the answer to that. It's worth different amounts in different circumstances or environments. The Neil Oates brand is very valuable with my wife, right? I just make sure that she lives a life that she appreciates and she understands the value of Neil Oates. She knows that if I go down, things change around here. Y'all know what I'm saying, right? So first, our brand value with our family, our significant other is going to be one. What's your brand value when it comes to your friends? Okay. And this is why it's so important, because many of us are missing money. We're missing opportunities. Remember those connections. Here we go. 3 C's: connection, character, competence. We're missing a big part of that income, that commission, compensation. Why? Because we haven't looked at our connection or character. So I want to ask you that when we talk about the value of our brand, let's first start with the people that already know us, like us, trust us. Now, maybe you're in a place right now where you have lost some relational value with some of these individuals. You have to get it back. You have to find a way, because your brand is too important, right? We know that if you have a good experience with a customer or client, they might tell one person. If you have a bad experience with a customer or a client, they're going to tell 6 to 11 people, right? So that's why it's so important. How many of us have done something amazing for a loved one, a sibling in our life, and they didn't tell nobody? They didn't even tell you thank you. But you slipped up and made one mistake, and the first thing they did was tell your mom or your daddy, right? Then they told the siblings, and then they told their cousin's cousin, who then came and told you, right? So we want to make sure how much is your value worth, or your brand worth, with your family and friends. Here's where we go next. How much is your brand worth with your clients or customers? Because ultimately, that's what's going to make our pockets jingle and fill up our purses and our wallets. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to say, well, how can we increase the value of our brand in the minds of our customer, client, prospect? Because the reality is, you all are I'm telling you, you're this close to drastically increasing the value, the perceived value. And fortunately and unfortunately, other people's perception of your value does impact your income. It does impact your compensation. It impacts not only money, but it impacts the amount of peace you have and the quality of your life. The more valuable that others see you and your brand and the service and products that you provide, the easier, the better, the simpler your life is going to be. And that's where we want to go. From the ranks of the mediocre many, where we're fighting tooth and nail, to the ranks of the elite few. Remember what I said last week, is that the harder you work, the less you earn. So we want to get where the opportunities are chasing us. And we're going to start with those 3 C's: turning thoughts to actions, and then 7, 11, 4. So what is your brand's value with your competitors? I have a fantastic story in real estate. I have a friend of mine who is a competitor as well. And he went to a showing, he went to a property, and he saw one of my marketing books on the table. And so when he went there, he told the seller, "Neil's been here, right?" And so they said, "Yes, he has." He says, "He's going to make a fantastic agent." He says, "Thank you so much for your time. It's time for me to go." Why? Because he understood that when he walked in the room and saw that I had been there already, that it was an L for him. And he still brings that up to me every time we meet. But here's why. It's not because of I do anything different. It's simply because I have communicated my value to my family. I've communicated my value to the marketplace, to my prospects and my clients or customers better than he was able to articulate. So as you ask the question, how valuable am I to blank? That's number one. I want you to ask a follow-up question. How good am I at articulating or communicating my value to them? Could it be that you're not very valuable to your kids because you have not communicated your value to them? Right? We as parents, we do a lot of things. Why? Because we're supposed to, because it's out of love. My son, who's 16, I make sure he knows how valuable I am. Hey, son, without your daddy, ain't none of this happening. Right? Why? Because all of us are great at what we do. You're so good, in fact, at what you do that you assume that others are going to see the value in your service. They're going to see the value in your brand. We are so focused on ourselves as human beings that I can't see how valuable you are. I am a trusting person. So once you tell me and you help me to see your value, I'll say, you know what? You're absolutely correct. You are that valuable. Thanks for reminding me. This is counterintuitive. So first we want to ask, how valuable are we to A, B, or C? And then we have to ask the question, how good are we at communicating our value to them? You know, so one of the things that I see all the time is I see couples who are having challenges, or I might see friends who are having challenges. And there's always disappointment there, but that comes from a lack of unmet expectations, right? Or unmet expectations. And oftentimes it's not intent, it's communication. We as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as organizations, whose job is it to communicate our value to the marketplace? It's ours. If we have done a horrible job at communicating our value, we can't really get upset. And so now we're going to say, so that was 1 and 2. Let's go 2B. How can we improve our communication of our value? How can you improve communicating your value to families, friends, colleagues, prospects, clients, customers, competition? I have a saying. So one of the ways that I communicate my value, and I'm always improving upon my communication of my value, I just make sure that I am published every month somehow, some way, right? Just making sure I remind them, hey, when you see me, when you see my name on your caller ID, you should answer. Why? You just saw me published in this magazine or featured in this article. You just heard someone say, hey, did you know that Neil was going to be there? Did you get your ticket? Right? So how can you improve or increase your value to those individuals? So all of those are questions that I really hope that you start asking and answering honestly over the next week, over the next 7 days. As a reminder, the journey to being world renowned is about a 6-month to a 12-month process of action. It just requires us to do the right things day in, day out, all the unsexy, mundane activities. But if you do them, I promise 6 to 12 months, even before that, really, you're going to start seeing some fantastic results. And I do believe that you will have a life and a business that you're proud of. So here's what I want you to understand, right? So what do they say? That's what your brand is. What do they say about you behind your back when you're not in the room? Do you know? Do you have the guts to ask? Do you think you know? Right? And if you know what that is it good or bad? If it's fantastic, let's capitalize. Let's start multiplying and maximize those opportunities. I know what people say about me behind my back. I told you all last time. He's a lot. He's always energetic. Sometimes he's a little bit too much. He's too positive. He really does believe that anything is possible. And I absolutely agree. And then from the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come. The problem is for us, we've never focused on building our personal brands. If you build your personal brand, your niche, your customer, your ideal client, they will come to you. Many of us right now, we aren't building our personal brand because we're just going to remain a generalist. We're just going to remain in this space for everyone. I've built a couple of personal brands, and it has come down to Neil just really believes that the minority has a chance, that the minority has a responsibility to do better and that he's going to take up the mantle, right? And show the way and have the light in his hand. That's part of my personal brand. As I build it, as I build Neil Oates, Mr. World Renowned, I'm finding that I don't have to look for the right people. The right people are looking for what I have. Here is what I want to remind you and encourage you all with. There are people, there are clients and customers right now looking for the very thing that you have. And the reason you aren't better financially, that you don't have more peace, is because you have not been gutsy enough to tell people, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I have to offer, this is how valuable I am to the marketplace. Once you start doing that, they're going to come. There are people right now who need your expertise in whatever field it's in. They need your stutters, your stammers. They need someone that looks like you right now so that they can feel comfortable. Okay, so here's how we're going to build our personal brand. As of today, this very moment, your number one job, I don't care what industry you're in, I don't care any of that. Your number one job is to start building your personal brand. Here's what I would tell you. Your boss doesn't want you to build your personal brand, does not want it to happen. Okay? Now, that does not mean that you go and that you do something that is unethical, right? But here's what we know. I mentioned we buy from people, not from brands. Me, I am going to trust a person. And if you with ABC, cool. ABC is getting my business and my loyalty. If you move over here to DEF, guess where Neil is going? I'm going to DEF. I have one title guy that I have used for almost 13 years. He's been with 4 different title companies. When he goes, Neil's going with him. I have a lender who has switched 3 different mortgage firms that he's with. When Dan goes, Neil follows, right? So I want you all to start building this brand. And here's how we're going to build this brand. Number one, we're going to look at these 3 C's, the thoughts to action and the 7-11-4. But this next piece is one that I painfully have to tell us that we are horrible at. Whatever your profession is, can I tell you, I believe that you're great at selling your product, that you're great at selling your service, but you are horrible at selling yourself. I've mentioned this last time. Many of you think that you are worse than you really are, and your clients or customers think that you're better than you are. The disconnect is that you are not selling yourself enough. And how are we going to sell ourselves? It's always funny when I say that, right? Hey, you want to be successful, sell yourself. But here's number one, leverage your story. And here's what I mean when I say leverage your story. So I have on my desk here, I have my lifeline. So this is what I have built, and this is my story. So on June 10th, 1982 is what I call my grand entrance. That's the day I was born. That's when the world got a little bit better and crazier, right? Maybe it started to tilt off of its axis. And then I go through here and I wrote down all of the highlights of my life. And then now I craft my story. Who better to tell your story than you? Can I tell you all something? Do you all know that you all are living in a movie right now? You are the starring actor or actress, and many of us have never given any input into the script. How scary is that, right? For you to be the leading actor or actress in your movie, and you've never said, wait, I want to do a rewrite. I don't want to live a life of poverty. I don't want to have lack. I don't want to have someone tell me what to do. So I went through and I figured out what my current story is. And then where I have the arrow, I wrote the rest of my script. I said, okay, so this has brought me here. And so some of you are in my story. In 4-H, when I was at Florella High School, I went there and I was in Troy at the 4-H speaking contest, and I cried telling the history of the peanut in front of 300 people. That's a big part of my story. So now when I talk about this right here, a big piece of my story was me not going to Louisville, Kentucky and going to Troy University or Troy State at the time, right? And so then now I know what parts of my story are valuable. So when I'm speaking with each of you individually or with audiences, I can fill out the audience. And now I get to dictate what story I want to share that's going to add value in their minds, in their eyes. And so I would encourage you all. Now, I know that I've given you all a lot with the 3 C's, thought, 7-11, 4, doing the whole assessment of what are people saying about you. This piece right here. How many stories in your life that you have not thought about? How many things or events that you have not gone back to ask? So in 2015, I was volunteer YPN of the year, right? Volunteer YPN of the year here in South Florida. Also in 2015, I was sleeping in my car, right? So 2015, we're talking 9 years ago. I was sleeping in my car and I would sleep in parking lots of casinos and Walmart, right? Because they had someone roving, right? No one knows that piece of my story until I tell it. Also, the same year that I was volunteer of the year, I stayed in the suite of a hotel in Jacksonville, right? Because some things changed. When I started saying in 2015, that's when things started to turn around for me. I'm like, why am I sleeping in parking lots, right? I figured out and I looked at my story and then we changed some things. Figure out your story, write it down. This will be one of those things that as we build our personal brand, everything's going to come together. If you do this, if you start building your brand, here's what I wrote down. Stories win, stats support. So many of us have been trying to say, well, no, I have this designation. I've been doing this for X number of years. We do not care. If we go back into the annals of history, what has been the way that human beings have connected? It is through story. This is why if you get someone that's really good at telling stories, you're like, they make that, they're impressive. That's why movie stars make so much money, because they are showing and telling stories. Stories connect here, stats connect here. And if we are being honest, which one is always going to win between the head and the heart? The heart is going to win no matter how much we want to reject that fact, right? Some of us were like, dang, I wish my heart didn't win all the time. If my heart didn't win all the time, I wouldn't have been with Knucklehead. I wouldn't have felt this way. But when we leverage our stories, and so these are the stories I want you all to start thinking about. Now, I know it seems like, Neil, this is personal stuff. This isn't really about business and development and increasing income. Yes, it is, because here's why. If you do business right, business is personal. You all are here not because of me speaking, like you all are here for Neil. You all are watching this or hanging out with me because of the personal relationship, and there happens to be some professional benefits on the side. So here, these are the stories I want you all to start crafting. One, how did you get started? Whatever you're doing, do you have a succinct way of telling people how you got started? I got into real estate because I was working for Terminex and I was doing some inspections for this real estate agent. He kept calling Terminex and I kept getting his inspections. I was crawling under houses in Hialeah and in attics checking for termites. One day he was like, Neil, you're too good to be crawling under these houses. Do you want to come sell them? Do I have to crawl under houses again? Nope. I went to lunch 2 days later, never went back to Terminex, right? And so this is where, how did you get started? The next question, why do you do what you do, or why do you keep going? All of us have reasons to quit. What part of your story keeps you going? The reason why I keep doing everything I do. When my dad passed away on March 8th, 2008, I had to go back to my funeral. My team leader at the time, I had to go back to my dad's funeral. My team leader at the time, I left. I'm in Alabama for my dad's funeral. Our HR department calls. I was like, Neil, you don't have enough days for vacation. we're going to have to dock you for the days that you stay in Alabama. Say, what? You're going to, like, I'm the CFO. I'm the one that runs all of this and make sure that you and your family are multimillionaires. 2 days, my dad passed. Roger that. So that's why I keep doing this thing. And here's what I know. Once you all hear, like, man, this guy went from crawling under houses to selling real estate. And yes, it was the same guy who later told me that I did not have enough days, or his company did not have enough days. Now you all are like, oh, this is awesome. Wait, his dad passed and they're going to charge 2 days? Like, he doesn't get paid leave, right? And so this is where, if you can connect here, why did you get started? Why do you keep going? And then in there, we want to have some of those emotional highs and lows, right? Emotion pulls this thing out of us as human beings. The same things, the same stories that you have been hiding and holding and putting under the shelf, that's going to be, if you can skillfully be vulnerable. If you can skillfully be vulnerable, you're going to win. Why? Because in this day and age, there's so many people who are fake, who always look put together. We don't want to buy from someone who's always buttoned up, who says, this is the way that I got here. It has been nothing but gold, yellow brick roads, nothing but rainbows and sunshine. We're going to say, well, where did the rain come from, the rainbows? No, it didn't happen, right? So this is where, if you put in those highs and lows, and if you draw people in, then you're going to have an awesome story. So the first, leverage your story. And so I want you to go back and I want you to accumulate all of your powerful stories. Record them, write them down, audio record. I need you to know your stories. So me, I have about 300 stories that are either in written form on my Google Drive, Google Docs, or they are in video form. I have about 300 stories. So now, if we interact, I have a story, and I'm going to show you all the power of a story here in just a little bit, because stories win, stats support. And we don't want to live a life or have a business of support. If we focus on the win, then we will win. After the story, I need you to create, develop intellectual property, your own intellectual property. That's why I'm writing a book. It's not because I want to write a book. It's because I want to be known as a creator. When you become a creator, guess what you do? You get to charge more. Creators get to charge more than consumers, right? Steve Jobs was a creator. Zuckerberg, creator. Oprah, she is a creator. Tyler Perry, like 50 Cent, like all of these are creators. They are not consumers. So focus on creating your own intellectual property, whether it's going to be music, it can be a book, podcast, web series, a proprietary system. It does not matter what it is. I need us to start creating intellectual property. It can be a booklet. For me, and so that you all are aware, I created what? World Renowned Wednesdays, right? Intellectual property. I created expanding your global reach when it comes to real estate, a class. I've written numerous classes. Why? Because I want people to say, he's a creator. Let's go learn from him. There's absolutely no reason why we on here or watching this playback should not position ourselves as creators. When you create, people will come and flock to what it is that you create. Now, some of us are like, hey, I'm not a creator. I have no idea what to create. I don't know what type of intellectual property. Think of the dumbest invention that you could ever think of. Someone bought it. More than one person bought it, right? Because the person who invented it bought it, and then they probably had their mom buy it, and then probably forced a cousin or a grandparent to buy it, right? So when we start talking about intellectual property, what do you know already? And here's where I want you all to leverage your story. If you leverage your story and create intellectual property off of, or that's connected to your story, you're going to win. Why? Because now it's personal. And if we do it right, and if we build this personal brand with our story, creating intellectual property is going to be easier. Not easy, but easier. So for me, when it comes to the Affluent Negroes, 7 Principles for Minority Wealth Creation book, that's coming that's easier than if I was going to try to build or create intellectual property that had nothing to do with my personal brand, that didn't resonate with me right here. There is a quote, or there's a saying that I want you all to understand, and I want you to just embrace. You will be known for the people you're connected to, the ideas you share, and what you care passionately about. You will be known for the people you're connected to, the ideas you share, and the things you care passionately about. Who you're connected to. Like, what do they say? Show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. What did our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles tell us? Birds of a feather. You will be known for the people you're connected to, the ideas you share, and what you care passionately about. People know me because I'm connected to other individuals. And we're going to talk about why I'm wearing this RPR, this Realtor Property Resource shirt here in a moment. Simply because I'm connected to RPR. There is no accidents, right? It is not because the bow tie and beard or Mr. World Renowned or coaching and consulting world renowned or real estate lost its power or prestige. It's just, I'm like, hey, here's what I know. And I remember, real life case study. I know that when I put this video online and RPR, when Reggie and the team from RPR see this, what are they going to do? Neil's wearing RPR. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So be known for the people that you're connected to, the ideas you share. What ideas are you sharing? Here's what I know. I know you have some ideas. I know that you're probably sitting on a treasure trove of ideas that you're holding so close to your chest that you refuse to share them. An idea in your head or in your heart is the same as no idea at all. The first exercise to getting your ideas out, here's what I need us to do. If someone, or the next time someone asks you what you want to eat or where you want to eat, give an answer. Do not say, it doesn't matter. Where do you want to eat? Look, some of us are guilty, right? Here's what I will tell you all. If you cannot decide where you want to eat or what you want to eat, it's very likely that you are not going to be willing to share your ideas. If you're not sharing your ideas, then you won't create intellectual property. You won't be willing to share your story. Your personal brand is not going to have the power and the value that we need it to have. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go ahead and decide what food or the restaurant right now. My go-to restaurant is going to be Chili's. If it's Chili's, what you want to eat? Chili's. They got everything. They got something for everybody. If it's a fast food situation, Wendy's. We're going to Chili's or Wendy's. So if you all ever ask me, Neil, what do you want to eat? Chili's. Oh, fast food. Wendy's. There is none. What's available, right? But I'm going to make sure that I make the decision. Why? I want to share my idea of where we're going to eat. And here's the beautiful thing of it. More than likely, people are going to be open to your idea. Now, they might not say yes right out the gate, but they will say, well, I don't even eat Wendy's. Well, they have chicken, beef, they have fries and potatoes. Which of those don't you eat? So you don't eat any of those? I mean, well, I could eat chicken. Well, could you eat a salad, a chicken, right? And so I just want you all to see, start sharing your ideas. And then as we build this personal brand, talking about you being known by the people you're connected to, the ideas that you share, and what you care passionately about. What do you care passionately about? So for me, mine are going to be kids and minorities, right? I just love young people and I love minorities. I'm just passionate about those two. And so therefore, everything I do that's in alignment, the stories that I choose to tell are specifically tied to the idea of the children or minorities. When we talk about my dad passing and me having to take days away And then I'm like, well, that's why I built this company. If you look at the companies that I have, they look like me. Why? I care passionately about it. Then there's that level of authenticity that we have. So share your ideas, connect with the right people, and then let us know what it is that you're passionate about. Okay, we're doing good on time. And I know this is a lot, but this is why we're going to make sure that you all have the playback for this so that you can move at your own pace. So as we continue to talk about the building of your personal brand, this next piece is going to be vitally important. Remember, we talked about vital versus functional. Vitally important. Without this piece, nothing else matters. You must claim a leadership role in your industry or in your niche. You have to be perceived as a leader. But Neil, I'm just getting started. I don't care. Here's how we're going to do that. Number one, get published. Everyone has to at least submit to canvasrebel.com. Canvas Rebel, one of the easiest places to get published. I don't care if you've been in a day, whatever field you're in, or if you've been in a year, 100 years. That's why the story is so important, because Canvas wants us to tell our story. In my office right now, I've got plaques and write-ups from myself and my wife. We have magazines reaching out to my wife for another article simply because she said, hey, I don't think I'm that interesting, but I'm willing. And then they said, oh, willing is interesting enough for me, right? Give us the story. And so now she is not in real estate, ladies and gentlemen. She is seen, she's being positioned and perceived as a leader in real estate because she knows her story. She's crafting her story, and now she's claiming a leadership position. So Canvas Rebel, C-A-N-V-A-S, Rebel, R-E-B-E-L, canvasrebel.com. So when I send out the email to you all, I'll make sure that Canvas Rebel is in there. You all probably have heard of that from me before. So become a brand ambassador or spokesperson. So if you want to take a leadership position, and it doesn't have to be on a board necessarily, but align yourself with a leader in the industry or a product or a service. RPR, ladies and gentlemen, right? Realtors Property Resource, 1.4, 1.5 million realtors in the US have access to RPR. I just love the product. I love the service. I think it's the best thing since the MLS in general in real estate. So I love it. And I tell everyone that I love the product. I love the service. So guess what? It doesn't take long for RPR to say, hey, there's this guy in South Florida talking about our product that really is using it in a different way. What are you using right now that you have done a poor job of shining the spotlight on them, right? If you help enough other people win, you're going to win. I make sure that RPR wins in my book. So if I'm out having conversation, or if I'm at an association or at a national event, I'm going to make sure at some point, some way, there are a couple of products that I just tout just a little bit. Hey, this is coming from the book of Neil. This is how I use it. This is what I use. You all don't have to. I'm not going to be sponsored. I'm not getting any type of compensation, but here's what I am getting. I'm getting exposure. And so in real estate, we say location, location, location. As a business owner and entrepreneur, it is positive exposure, positive exposure, positive exposure. That's what your focus. Remember, our number one job is to create our personal brand. We're going to put that on the back of those 3 C's. Connections, I'm connected, the character of me and the character of RPR, and then the competence. I'm just really good at what I do, right? So we always want to look at how are these things intertwined. And this is how we start using that stacking effect and that multiplicity, where we say, hey, okay, she's good over here, he's good over here, he's done it. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about your health, if you're talking about your business, doesn't matter if you're talking about your relationships, it has to work, because these foundational principles, they're going to work regardless of the area that we look at. So connect with a brand, a product that's really good in your niche or your business. If you're in music And I know some of us are connected to products and brands. You should be telling and talking about that product and brand every chance you get in social media. Instead of us tagging our friends, we should be tagging the products, brands, services, companies that we want to use, right? Or that we are using, that we want to get attention for. So check this out. We're doing, like, it's a wild thing. For us, we're tagging cigar companies whose cigars we smoke. If we're wearing a certain type of sock or shoe, we're tagging them and making sure that they get some of the attention. If we go to a golf course and we participate in one of their events, we're not only going to talk about us and how we did, we're going to tag that golf course or that country club and let them know, man, they were top notch. And we're going to make them look so good that they want to share, and then say, hey, would you be willing to do a testimonial? I'm like, great. Can I get it in after a round of golf? Can I record it after a round of golf? What am I going to do? I'm going to make sure that I go play a round of golf, and then I'm going to record as I'm out there on the golf course. So I want us thinking like corporations, thinking like marketing companies. We're great at what we do. We're horrible at telling the world that we're great at what we do and that we're connected to other influential and successful people and businesses. And then here's where, so we talked about the craft your story, intellectual property, get in a leadership position, and then number 4, the most, well, I'm not going to say the most important, but this is the bow on the end of everything. Have you perfected your pitch, right? Are you really good at pitching your ideas and your value? Now we're starting to understand what our value is. We're saying, okay, yes, I understand that I have one level of value with family, clients, customers, maybe with brands, but then can you pitch, can you communicate your value to them? Like, here's the answer, or here's the question to ask, or here's the question that you have to answer. Why should I hire you and pay you? Right? That's the question. If you cannot answer that question, we are not ready. Our brand is not strong enough. Why should I hire you and pay you? Because we can get hired and not get paid, right? Many of us are like, hey, we're in the service industry. They can fire us at any moment. Why should I hire you and pay you? If you can't articulate that in a convincing way, you're not going to have a strong brand. You're not building something that's going to have a defensible value. So I really want us asking the question, why should they hire us and pay us? Get great at pitching your ideas. Build your profile. Everything that we've looked at, from the 3 C's over here to all of this, is about us building our profile, making sure that when people look for us, that they find us and that they like what they find. So today, I played in the Frenchman's Reserve tournament, right? So there was a tournament, had a fantastic time. I went there. I was solo dolo. It was just me. There were about 60 of us there. And so I go there, and I'm in my cart. I'm one of the first people to get there, right? Because I don't know what's going on. But you all can see, I started on hole 12A. I'm chilling in the cart because it was hot. And so this guy, I have no idea who he is. There's probably 30 of us there at this time. Someone yells, hey, Mr. World Renowned, it's too hot to be sweating. No, it's too early to be sweating already. It's like 7:45. I look at the guy, and he's laughing. I have no idea who this guy is. He's like, hey, Neil, pleasure to meet you. I'm Dave. I'm like, nice to meet you, Dave. He says, yeah, man, I had to know who all the big hitters were. I had to know who was going to be here and playing with some of my guys. And so the reason I tell you all that is for this next piece. You will be Googled. Come to find out, Dave saw what the pairings were. There were 11 of his guys from his golf grouping and his league that came to this event. I was the only one that played with them that was not part of the family. So he Googled me. Who is this guy that doesn't look like us? Who is this guy that we have no idea that's going to be with us for 4 hours? He Googled me. And then when he Googled, He started finding out some stuff. He saw what my family looked like. He saw what I did for a living. He started diving in and subscribing to some of the, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, watch some of the videos. Had his son, who is in real estate, take one of my real estate courses that's online. And then today, he was like, yeah, man, you're a great guy. How can you say that? I mean, you don't really know me. How can you say that I'm a great guy? He was like, no, online, like Google says that you're a great guy. I looked for a lot of stuff and I could not find anything. So here's what I'm going to tell you. You will be Googled, right? Are you searchable? And if you are searchable, are people going to like what they see? This is why we have to be published. This is why we have to make sure that we have that 7 hours of content, that we find some way to get information and ideas out. Build your website or a website, not for your industry or your practice. I need you to build a website for you so that when people Google you, your name, your website shows up and you get to tell them, you get to take them down the journey, the story that you want them to read, that you want them to watch. Otherwise, it's going to be at the mercy of what others say. It's going to be at the mercy of social media or what you're tagged in. We all know those friends who tag us and stuff that we have no business being tagged in, right? When you're like, why would she do that? Why would he connect me with this, right? So I want to make sure that we're focused on building our personal brand because that is our most valuable asset. And then if you build it, they will come. It doesn't matter if we're in real estate, if we're in some other service-based business. Remember that people do business with people. They do not do business with brands. So that's where we're going to end for tonight. So I appreciate you all hanging out here with me. It's time for me to remind you all of something very, very important. And that is that I love you. God loves you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time I see you or you see me, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace